So I am always looking at the weather to begin with. So today's sunny, yay, because yesterday was not sunny. We had so much thick cloud, a lot of, do you remember the name for the light rain? Can you remember in the chat box, the light rain that we can sometimes have in this country? We had a lot of that yesterday. If you can remember the word, it begins with D. It's a really good word to describe a lot of English rain. So we had a lot of that all day yesterday. It wasn't cold though, because a drizzle. Thank you. Somebody's got a good memory. It wasn't cold because we had so much thick cloud. But today we have cloud. It's light cloud, so I think maybe it will be sunny but cold. That's fine. I think we prefer it cold if we've got sunshine. So we shall see what happens. Anything can happen in this country. But one thing that won't happen is snow. Maybe if you're in Plymouth in January, February, maybe there's a little chance of snow, but it is really small because we're so close to the sea. It tends to keep us a little bit warmer. Do you notice that verb? The sea tends to keep us. So not always, but if we tend to do something, that's what usually happens. So that's another good word for your vocabulary. So the sea tends to keep us warm, although sometimes we have snow. And I'm trying to remember when it was that we had snow. I think it was 2018. Yeah, I think it was 2018. Plymouth had really bad snow. And it came quite quickly and quite unexpectedly. And so everybody had gone to City College Plymouth as normal in the morning because it was quite a nice sunny morning. And then suddenly during the morning, the clouds came, really heavy clouds that looked a little bit yellowy in colour. And that's usually a sign of snow. And some people were saying it's going to snow. Some people were saying, no, it never snows in Plymouth. And then suddenly it started to snow, and the snow got heavier and heavier really quickly. And by lunchtime, the college said, we're going to close. Everybody go home immediately before the snow gets really bad. And as you can imagine, when a college or a school closes suddenly, because particularly of snow, which might affect transportation, everybody rushed out of the college, particularly because a lot of people at City College Plymouth work here in Plymouth, but they live outside Plymouth in the countryside. So they want to get home really quickly because it's very difficult. If you've got snow, it's really difficult to get down the small roads. So if you're just joining, I'm just telling a story about the weather. For the first few minutes, a little bit of IELTS practice for me, talking about something that happened, an unusual event. So the unusual event was that we had heavy snow suddenly in Plymouth. We were expecting it the next day, but it came much more quickly than anybody was expecting. And the college had to close, and the buses stopped running very quickly. So that's why everybody was leaving the college to get in their cars to drive home. And I had my car with me, but I don't live too far from the college. It takes me, if I'm walking, it takes about an hour. So not very close, but I can walk. And I had my car, but I was really nervous to drive in the snow and ice. And I knew in my car that I had put some boots for walking in the snow ready for the next day because I like to be prepared. So I had some boots in there ready for the next day. Anyway, the snow came that day. So I thought, okay, I don't want to drive in the snow and the ice. I'm going to walk. I'll go and get my boots. So by this time, most people had left the college. I wanted to avoid the rush. I wanted to try and be a little bit safer and avoid the rush. So I had waited. And also we had some students that needed some help to get home. So I'd been organising some help with the students, and it was quietening down. So I thought, okay, I'll walk to my car, get my boots, walk home. I started walking to the car. What happens in the snow and the ice? I slipped, I fell over. And as soon as I fell over, I thought, I think I've broken my arm. And I looked around because I was so embarrassed that I had fallen over. My main concern was, oh my gosh, I hope nobody saw me fall. And then I realized nobody saw me fall and nobody can help me. And I think I've broken my arm. So eventually I managed to get up and my car was just there. So I managed to walk to my car, get in my car. And that was the scariest part because all the windows were covered with snow. So once I was in my car, I was just like in this little ice cave. No, I couldn't see anybody. Nobody could see me. I was thinking, what am I going to do? So I phoned my family, and nobody in my family was in Plymouth at that stage. Everybody was working away in London and in Wales and different places. Hi, sunshine. I'm just telling a very long story. It started off as a short story, but this is good IELTS practice for me in case I have to tell a story about something unusual that happened to me. And I got caught in the snow and I fell over. So I thought, okay, come on, Elaine. They can't help you. Your family can't help you. They're all in different places. Get the boots on. You have to sort yourself out. So my family was saying, can you move your fingers? And I said, I think so, yeah. And they're like, no, you haven't broken your arm. Don't be silly. And I'm thinking, I have. So with one hand, I got my boots on, and then I had to walk for about 20 minutes, I guess, to a small hospital that's near the college. So if you come to City College Plymouth, you will know from this long story, if you fall over, we have a small hospital that deals with emergencies quite close. So I walked with my arm to the hospital and joined the queue of people at the hospital who were also like this with their arms. And we had all fallen over. Anyway, they saw me, they x-rayed me. Yes, I had broken my arm. They said, you must be really careful. We will put a temporary cast on. We call it a cast, what you put on, C-A-S-T, cast on your arm. And then you need to go home. And tomorrow you need to phone the main hospital in Plymouth and make an appointment to get a new proper cast on. So I said, okay. And they said, be careful now. How did you get here? So I said, I walked. And they said, right, you need to get a taxi now. So okay, fine, I'll get a taxi. So I phoned for the taxi. No taxi will come because the snow and ice. And they all said, no, sorry, any taxi that can get out is out now with people. And then there's no more taxis because we can't, it's not safe enough. But we have heard that if you can get to the city centre, you can catch the bus, and along the main road through Plymouth, there are some buses. Okay, so with my broken arm in my cast, I walked to the city centre, which took me 45 minutes maybe. And yes, there was a bus, so I could get a bus. And I got the bus through Plymouth. I managed to get off quite near my home and walk home. So just be careful. Sometimes it does snow in Plymouth. It's not very often, and we're not very prepared because it doesn't happen very often. So make sure if it's going to snow, don't fall over and break your arm. So yes, that was a long story. It's now 9:10. So I think we need to get started with your work. So hopefully we have managed to give an example perhaps of how you can keep talking. How long was I talking for about that story? A long time. So I think, if you've got a story, can you add detail? Can you add more information, explanation? So, okay, something that happened to me. Yes, it snowed, I broke my arm. Or can you add more detail about how you're going to add some information about why people were leaving City College so quickly, for example, because some of them live outside, and a little bit of information about the transportation and that sort of thing. So what we're doing today is thinking about how we can add some more information and how we can plan a talk. Now, I have to say, I didn't plan that exact talk. It started off, didn't it, with the weather and the cold, and how we can sometimes have snow in Plymouth, and what can happen if we have snow in Plymouth. So I'm hopefully sharing my screen to you so that you can see today we are talking about extended speaking skills. So we're thinking about giving a talk, and giving a talk is different to having a conversation because you have to do all the talking. And English teachers, we quite like talking English. So that's not too much of a problem for me. I've been talking about IELTS for 20 years, so I'm quite used to planning, adding information, and including the required. Although, if we think about that talk, I only talked about mostly about the past, didn't I? There was just a little bit of present tense use, talking about today's weather, and a little bit of use of a verb which indicates habit or regular events, and that was the verb tends to. The sea or the ocean tends to keep us a little warmer so we don't get snow. But I didn't talk about the future really. I only really mentioned about if you come to Plymouth. So perhaps my talk, if I was talking about something that happened to me in the past or an experience I've had, that's fine. Most of the required criteria or most of what the exam would want would be the past, because something that has happened to you. So we're going to have a look at extended speaking skills. What I really would like to happen is that I would like you guys to talk to me at some point, but so far we seem to be a little bit slow, reluctant, hesitant, nervous, all those kinds of words on the interactive speaking. So I've been trying to think of different ways that we can interact without possibly you speaking as I am now, because I realize that it's not always easy online, and it's not always easy when you've got other people that you don't know. But the good thing is we're all sharing English. So that's the one thing that unites us. We've all got English, but we'll leave that to one side for a moment. But what I would like to do is to try and get you to interact. We've had a little bit of interaction today with the suggestion of drizzle, so that's good. So we'll see. I've got some ideas about how we might do this in the future without you speaking, but so you can be involved. So let's move on to how often do you give an extended talk? Well, probably you would say not very often. How often do you have to talk on a topic on your own without planning in advance? So we know that lots of people give speeches, and we know that people like maybe politicians or teachers stand up in front of people and they don't seem to be nervous, and they talk and it sounds quite interesting, and we think, well, it's okay for them because they're good at that. But actually, not generally. People have had to learn those skills. People don't usually start off thinking, oh, as a child, what I would really like to do is grow up and talk in front of people. Maybe an actor or an actress might. So probably you think you don't do that very often, although you might do it more often than you think. So how often do you give an extended talk? You give an extended talk every day. I've just given an extended talk. If you're telling your friends about some exciting thing that happened to you, you're giving an extended talk. So for IELTS or for any English exam, you need to do that in English. So you know you've got the skills. So you're talking about to your friends, your family, about how something happened or why something happened. So quite often we get home and we say, hey, guess what happened? This happened. How? Why? And you give some more information. Or you're talking about a film plot. I saw this amazing film, and what happened? To begin with, this happened, and then that happened, and in the end, so it's an extended talk. You might be explaining how to do something. You might talk about the latest news, what you think about it. You give an extended talk every day. So you have got the ability. You might not be confident in that ability, and you might not be confident in your English. So this is where we've talked about thinking about your independence, and thinking about how you need to take responsibility for this, because if you've got the skills, you need to try and develop them. So we're going to think about how we can develop the skills to do this in English, and also thinking about in an assessment. And is it more difficult to give an extended talk in an English assessment compared with giving an extended talk in your own language, which actually you probably do without realizing? Why is it more difficult? It isn't more difficult, but it feels more difficult. So that's an important thing to remember. It's our feelings about the assessment which makes it more difficult. We've got an unfamiliar topic. So today I wasn't planning on talking to you about my broken arm, but I did. So I didn't plan it, but I was very familiar with that topic. So I didn't need to plan it. However, in IELTS or in an English assessment, the topics that are chosen are chosen because they have scope or opportunity for most people to be able to talk about that topic in some way. The topics are chosen very carefully for that. They're chosen to give people the opportunity to be able to talk about the subject. So although it's unfamiliar to you at that moment, it's probably going to be education, technology, holidays, shopping, the environment, life in your country, a skill you have learnt, something you would like to do in the future. So it's unfamiliar because you weren't planning on that for that day, but you need to plan all these in advance so that you've had some preparation. Of course, nerves make it more difficult, because the first thing that usually happens when we feel nervous is that we stop talking, or we want to talk to somebody we feel familiar with, and we don't feel familiar with the examiner. So nerves, but planning helps to control the nerves, and we'll be planning talks today, and that will help you. You might have a topic that's similar to that. So if you were going to IELTS and somebody said, talk about an unusual experience that you had, you can say, well, I'm not sure that my experience is very unusual, but breaking your arm isn't very unusual, but that talk would have been fine for that topic. You need to meet the requirements, so you need to have in your mind what you need to do, thinking about tenses, past tense, future tense. You want to make sure you get those grammatically correct. You want to include vocabulary. You want to think about organization, so you don't say, oh, and I forgot, actually, I should have told you at the beginning, you're worried about making mistakes with vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, and so on, which comes back to our nerves. And maybe you don't feel as able as you are. You will certainly be more able than you think you are. So we have to deal with all these, and all of these can be dealt with. We can think about all of these in planning for IELTS. So you're not doing your IELTS exams at the moment, you're not doing them next week. So any time that you've got a little bit of free time, you can prepare for exams, not studying with books in libraries, but everyday things will help you. So we'll have a look at some everyday things that we can do. So preparation and practice, we talked about WWWHEG, and we did say there might be more W's, but we can't just have a zigzag line, can we? And also, usually 3 will be more relevant for your talk. So we can think about who, where, why, what, and when. So we've got 5. But if we're talking about technology in education, for example, let's see, can we do all of those? Who? Maybe we can talk about students and teachers. Why? We could talk about the pandemic. We could talk about difference in developing education. When? Who, why, yes, I'll lose track in a minute. When? So maybe when may not be as important for this one, because we're talking about now and the future. So it's not when in terms of when I broke my arm in 2008. Where? Again, technology and education there, that might not be so important, because we know it's either in person or online. And who? Oh, what? That was the other one I hadn't talked about. And what? Well, what we know, because that's technology and education. So there's usually going to be 3 that seem more relevant. How and examples. So we want to remember things that we talked about from last week. We really need to remember to listen to other people giving talks and taking notes on the structure, taking notes on their vocabulary, taking notes on how they added in examples and more information. So you could listen to me again if you want to, but you can find far more interesting people, I'm sure, to listen to on all sorts of different topics. And I mentioned to you about listening to things on the internet that you're interested in, and that's a really important thing to do. Sometimes we get too interested in the topic and we forget to listen to the structure, but that's an important thing to do. And set yourself practice challenges. Sit on the bus or in a car or walk along the street, have your timer on and think, okay, I'm going to talk about what I can see around me and maybe how this street looks different today than it did 20 years ago or 100 years ago. What was here 100 years ago? Probably countryside. Why is the street not countryside now? So people maybe wanted to live in the city because there were more job opportunities. Why were there more job opportunities in the city than in the countryside? So you need to practice all the time thinking about topics like this. So we're going to have a look at an example, and we're going to think about stairs. So I'm going to ask you a question about stairs and how long you think you could talk about stairs for. So I'm just going to get that ready so I can share that with you. And then I'm going to ask you a question. How long? Put in the chat box. If you think about stairs, how long do you think you could talk about stairs for? How many minutes or how many seconds? What do you think? Can you put an answer in the chat box? Five minutes, 3 minutes. So quite a few minutes. What do you think, guys, you would talk about the stairs in the chat box? How are you going to talk about stairs for 5 minutes? What are you going to include? What information are you going to include in that talk? Describe the stairs. Yeah, so we could talk about what they're made out of, where they go, the longest stairs. Yes, could be the longest stairs you've visited, could be the longest stairs that you know of around the world. Anything else? Why we aren't replacing stairs with escalators. Good idea. Excellent. Any other suggestions? Right, I haven't got any more there. That's fine. Let's have a look at a talk about stairs. Okay, guys. Hi. You mentioned that my mic had an echo. Did you manage to hear anything at all?
Well, yeah, but the video is the sound of the video is echoing from you.
Okay, so maybe I have put the wrong setting on there. It should have been sharing something. What I will do is I will put the link to that into the chat box, and you can have a look at it at home. I'm not sure why that was echoey, but maybe I've got a couple of too many tabs open perhaps for the talk. However, hopefully it gave you an idea of what is possible if you are talking about stairs. For example, stairs are the example, but maybe we can talk about any topic in that way. So we can think about a topic, what it looks like, how it's designed, how it makes us feel. So we think about how stairs make us feel. I've never thought about how stairs might make us feel, but actually when we think about that, yes, they can make us feel grand, they can make us feel rushed, they can make us feel tired if we're walking up those stairs. But however they make us feel is different according to the stairs. And I think he had some very interesting ideas. Obviously, for talking about stairs, then he had planned that talk. So I've put the link into the chat box. You can see that the website is TED.com, and I have mentioned to you before about the TED Talks. So if you go to TED.com, TED have hundreds, thousands of talks on so many different topics. So they're really good really good tool for you to use if you are practicing thinking about speaking and also writing as well, because the talks are organized in the same way that you would need to write something. So we've got a talk there on TED Talks, and what I did was I went to the TED Talks and I looked for 3-minute talks, and somebody mentioned that they could talk about stairs for 3 minutes. Who was that? Oh, I can't see your name. Oh, yes, I can. 31331. I can't read your name. I'm really sorry because I'm not very good with different alphabets. But you thought 3 minutes, Say, and Felix thought 5 minutes. And when you see that talk, you think, actually, yes, we could talk for that length of time, couldn't we? So it's not thinking about, I don't know anything about this topic. It's thinking about, I know things that I need to plan and organize. So that's an important thing to do, to have a look at those TED Talks and to think about listening to them and think about the vocabulary as well. And I think it was Felix, yes, Felix mentioned escalators, another word for stairs, or mechanical stairs, moving stairs. So that's a really good word to be able to use as well. But he had all sorts of different vocabulary in there that you can have a look at another time. We've got a hand raised. Can you ask me a question?
Teacher, sorry, my Wi-Fi is the next disconnection. Just
fine. Don't worry.
But think I have heard you told me, but I don't know what to say.
That's fine. I was just saying that you have given a really good answer because you said you could talk for 3 minutes about stairs, and that talk was 3 minutes.
Okay.
So, well done. But don't worry, I wasn't asking you a difficult question. And
okay.
Don't worry about your connection. I know it's really difficult with internet, isn't it? That sometimes things drop out and you miss things. But PDVL record these, so it might be that you're able to access them again if you need to.
Thank you, teacher.
You're welcome. So let's have a look, moving on to what we're going to think about. So can we talk about stairs for a long time? Yeah, we probably could. We've got stairs talking for about 3 minutes. And let's see if we've got, yeah, there we go. So we talked about WWWHEG and alternative vocabulary, and he was talking about where the different stairs are, why some stairs are more famous than others, how we use stairs. He was talking about the what a lot because he was talking about stairs and they were the what, and he used different vocabulary to do that. How we feel about stairs, how we might walk on stairs. So some stairs were very steep, some stairs were more shallow. So thinking about how we might do that and how that might make us feel. Examples of different stairs around the world. He used lots of different alternative vocabulary to talk about stairs. And he talked about what the parts of the stairs are called. So he talked about the risers and the tread and the nose. You're not going to have to know any technical information like that on a topic unless it's something that we all know about. So we're thinking about requirements and IELTS 5. We'll just go back. So remembering the requirements in an English assessment, and IELTS 5 is what we're probably the minimum of what we're going to be aiming for. If you've got IELTS 5, you can start on a university foundation course like the one that we run at City College Plymouth. When you go to university to start a degree, the minimum you're going to need is 5.5, probably 6. So if you're aiming to make sure that you are confident at 5 now, then you can improve to get to a 5 or a 6 as you practice with your IELTS exam practice. So IELTS 5, usually you can maintain a flow of speech, but you might repeat, self-correct, or you might have slow speech to keep going. So sometimes if you're talking, you might repeat yourself a little bit while you're thinking. So it's not quite as fluent as you might speak in your own language, but you can keep on talking. You may overuse certain connectives like and but. And that's an important thing to remember. If you get used to using in addition, also, as well, however, despite that, those different connectives, you're going to get better marks for IELTS. Simple speech can be fluent, but more complex communication might cause a fluency problem if you are thinking about using more complex sentences which have got different clauses, so adding a little more information into the sentence. Talking about familiar and unfamiliar topics, but using vocabulary with limited flexibility. So this is really important, isn't it? The vocabulary. We want to make sure that we've got that vocabulary knowledge. And summarizing, but possibly with mixed success. So again, we're thinking about planning, introducing the topic, starting to talk, giving more information, and then at the end of the talk saying how we feel at the end. I'm going to try again and talk about a topic. Or I'm not going to, I'm thinking about showing you a little video using good organization of vocabulary. Now, I want to make sure that I do this without having an echo. So let's see if I can just make sure that my settings are correct. I think they seem to be. So let's see if we can get onto that little video. Unfortunately, as with everything, the internet will be the person or the thing that will control in the end. So let's just see if I can share this tab with you. And I want to just pause it for a moment. What I'm going to do is also put this into the chat box so that you can access it later. So let me put that into the chat box now. Copy and paste. I'll put that in the chat box now. I have a feeling that it may not be as successful as I'm hoping. I have before on Google Classroom, but not in Google Classroom where other people are in other parts of the world. It shouldn't have made any difference, but maybe it's maybe going down the pipe. Your different countries might be different. So let's see if I can share this tab. Okay. So hopefully We are on IELTS Speaking Part 2. And we can see here that we've got some, hopefully you can see, we've got some interesting points. Can you just put in the chat box if my mic has got an echo? Great, that's good. So maybe the TED Talk wasn't so successful, but maybe that's because this one is not speaking as well. So this is a good one for you to look at. Have a look at this. Speaking Part 2, you're given a topic card, a pen and paper to make notes, and a minute to prepare your talk. So the topic card will have 3 or 4 bullet points to guide your talk, but remember, they're just a guide. You don't have to follow all of the bullet points. So for example, you should say what it was, when you read it, what it was about. So that's with regards to a book. That could be a film, that could be a holiday, that could be a skill. So what the skill was, what the book was, where the holiday was, when did you go, when did you learn it, when did you do it, and what it was about. So give the story. So those are the kind of questions you will always get. They might be worded slightly different if they're talking about a book or a film and so on. And how to deal with that. So we're going to watch a video now and we'll see if we can get it to work. So if this isn't working very well, put a message in the chat box. I will have a look at the chat box, but also you've got the link so you can visit it afterwards if you need to. And you can see there are other ones there as well. So you can see there are other videos that you can find on that website. I haven't chosen that website because it's the most amazing website in the world for IELTS, but I did really like that video because I thought it was really interesting that we could see what he was saying and we had the visuals as well. And I think that's a really useful way of thinking about how we're organizing our talk. And it's a good way of thinking about the vocabulary because we see the vocabulary that he uses. So I would really recommend that if you can, go back to that link there, both of those links that are there. If you haven't got the links or you forget to copy them or whatever, just remember TED.com and you've got Keith's KeithSpeakingAcademy.com. And then once you've got those, you can always find them. So again, not the answer to everything. There are lots and lots of different websites on the internet which give you help for IELTS, but I think that's a nice little video. So when we were watching, we could see that he was summarizing. So at the end, he summarized and he said, overall, what I feel about this book. He talked about the author. He didn't have the correct author. The author is Sandi Toksvig. He said the author is Sonia Toksvig, or at least I think that's her name. And that's fine because it's not an exam about can you remember the author's name of a book. It's a test of your English. So I think that's the name. That's fine. And then the talk was really nicely organized in terms of where it was set, when it was set, when it happened, who the characters were, how the author had built up the characters, how the author described the characters. Much better to organize your talk. So if you have a minute in the IELTS exam to organize your talk. It's not very long. If you get into the habit of how that's done, you can transfer that knowledge to any topic. So I think that's a really good way of practicing. Have a look at people talking about things. So let's go back to what we were focusing on before. So we're thinking about how to talk about a topic and how to use good organization and vocabulary and so on. And that video did that really nicely for us. So we're going to start to plan topics and talks, and I will give you a topic today. And I want you to start to plan your talk, and I'll have a look at your different ideas. And then I'm hoping that tomorrow you will deliver your talk. However, I'm aware that this week we don't have as many students, do we? So let's have a look at how we might organize this, because I was thinking that last week we had about 40 people, maybe slightly less, on the call, and I was really worried because I thought, how are we going to have 40 people talking? That's not going to happen. There's too many. And also, when we went into the breakout rooms, not everybody was talking in the breakout rooms. So I was a little bit worried about whether people will talk or not. However, today we've just got 15 people. One of them is me, another one is PDVL. So that means we've got 13 people. So we could go into breakout rooms of around 3 or 4, and you could talk to each other about different ideas. And maybe we could work together in small groups to plan the talk and then deliver the talk tomorrow. However, I would really like you to do something that you feel comfortable with. So I would like you to see, I think we'll do a poll. So we'll get a quick idea about what other people think. So will you take part in giving a talk? So option 1 is yes. Option 2 is no. And I would like you to really answer honestly. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to be able to vote on screen, yes or no. Don't worry, there is no correct answer, okay? I would like you to do what you feel comfortable in doing. So if you feel comfortable talking to the rest of the group, either individually or as part of a group, so if you think you would feel comfortable about doing that, vote yes. If you think you wouldn't feel comfortable, vote no, and we'll organize it differently. Okay, so hopefully you can vote. So can you vote there? People are voting, so that's good. 4 people have voted, 6 people have voted. Okay, great. So we've got some votes coming in. Excellent. I'm not seeing anybody's names. Nobody else is seeing anybody's names, so that's fine. Don't feel nervous. We've got 8 votes. We've got 15 people who can vote. Are you listening? Are you there, guys? We've got 10 votes. Hello, students. Can you vote? 5 more votes. We're waiting. I can't see who's voted and who hasn't voted, so I'm not sure. So that's fine, but I'm just not sure who hasn't voted. However, 90% of people have said yes, they would feel comfortable. 10% of people say no, not so comfortable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. We'll end the poll there. I'm going to put you into breakout rooms and give each breakout room a topic. So we've got 30 minutes today. And what I would like to do is in your breakout room, introduce yourself to each other and then see how you can work together to create a plan for a talk. Okay, so the topic I give you will be the topic for your group, but not for other groups. So you don't need to worry about other people saying the same thing as you. And I'm going to put you into small groups, and then I will visit each group to give you your topic and information on what you need to talk about. So if you're the last group that I visit, you might be in the room for a few minutes while I'm talking to the other groups. You can talk to each other, okay? So please don't worry about taking your mics off. I encourage you to do that. I'm very happy for you to take your mics off and say, oh, what's Elaine doing? I don't really feel comfortable. I don't want to do this. Or how do you feel? I feel really nervous. You can say whatever you like as long as you're talking in English. Okay, so don't worry about that. And then let's see if we can organize a talk. I'll have a look at your plans and then maybe we can do some talking tomorrow. If we're about the same number tomorrow, then we've got a couple of activities that I would have liked to have done. We can do those tomorrow as well. It's much easier with this smaller number. However, I don't know why some people haven't joined today, and they might join tomorrow, so I'm not sure. Somebody's just left. Maybe that's because of their internet connection, but if you feel nervous, please do not leave, okay? This isn't a taster to make you feel unhappy or difficult, all right? So I'm not going to ask you to do anything that is going to be a terrible disaster or make you look stupid. So we're going to go into our breakout rooms. I will set up the rooms. It takes a minute or two to get in those, and then I will come round to each room and talk to you. Okay, I think we've got, oh no, we've got a couple of people still to come back. Hi, guys. A couple of people still in breakout 2, still to come back. Okay, so tomorrow, some of you may feel confident about talking, some of you may feel less confident about talking, but the most important thing is to be here tomorrow. Nobody will have to speak if they don't want to, but I'm hoping to give you some tools to make you feel a little more confident in speaking a little bit. If you speak tomorrow, that's fantastic. You've all got your topics that you're going to talk about, or plan rather. They're not the most amazing topics because for IELTS, they never are the most amazing topics. So we want to work with topics that could come up in IELTS, but we've got our WWWs and our examples and our how to help us. So tomorrow I'm going to put you into the same breakout rooms with the same partners, and we're going to do a little planning time, and then we'll look at those plans. Okay, so if you want to work on a Google Doc together, that's fine. You can record your ideas on a Google Doc. I'm also going to try and give you all a Jamboard, like a whiteboard that you might work with. Although I think that actually sometimes those can be a little difficult because they're new to you, but we might practice that beforehand, and then we'll see if we can use those. And those are ways that we can put bullet points onto a virtual whiteboard. So if you're not comfortable with speaking, or if you are taking part in the call in an environment that's not appropriate for you to take your mic off, if it's very busy and so on, then you can share the Jamboard or the Google Doc, and we can have a look at what good ideas you've got and how we could improve those. And we'll also have a look at other people's talks from outside this group. For example, maybe something like the TED Talk, and how that's structured. So we'll probably look at that sort of thing first of all tomorrow, just to give us some confidence in what we're going to do in our groups, work in our groups, and then we'll have a look at our group plans, and we'll have a look at possibly people speaking if they feel comfortable with doing so. So that's tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming along today. It's been lovely to see you all again today, and I've seen lots of familiar faces and names, so that's really lovely to see. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, think about speaking, think about vocabulary, and you've got overnight to think as well a little bit about topics. So that's great. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.
See you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Miss Lee.